couple weeks ago, we did a video on Briggs & Stratton engines and their air filters and asked if you guys were seeing the same issues as we were with the quality and the fitment on them. A lot of you responded that you did. Some of you responded that you didn't. Either way, I'm going to show you today a good fix we found for this after going through and brainstorming and working on it for the last couple weeks as far as what can happen quick and easy to get it taken care of. Let me show you what that is. First off, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Briggs & Stratton Professional Series. 23 horsepower. Nice and covered with dust. As we take this off, this thing feels pretty tight. I don't see really any issues with it. Fitment doesn't seem too bad, but we can see it's been pulling down into the intake. Put this back in. Again, that thing is tight in there. It's not real loose like a lot of these are. Some of you say that the top cover holds the filter down. Even if that holds it down, this over here wouldn't hold it in place. It's just not tight fitting enough up against there to make a complete seal. On this, it was a lot easier to see with that oily layer from the blown head gasket than it normally would be. Normally, all that stuff wouldn't get caught in the intake. It would just fly right on by and get engulfed into the engine. That's when you get a lot of valve issues and stuff on these. That's why they have a bad rep, is because of that. They're good engines. They're just designed poorly now to fail. Again, my opinion. Let me show you how to fix this. People say we don't use OEM filters or things like that. This is a Briggs & Stratton 792105. All we use is Briggs & Stratton OEM parts on Briggs units. It's got a part number on the bottom. See what kind of fit we got. Seems tight. Seems like a nice, real nice tight fit. Just like that other one did though, right? I don't really see any, it doesn't move nearly as much as that other one at the front though. It's tight up there now. This is a brand new filter. Those other ones, after sitting for just a week or two though, were already separating in some spots. To fix this, people have commented, you know, from a layer of duct tape to epoxying, PVC to everything else. I came up with a solution it's quite a bit cheaper than all that, and it's definitely going to be easier than anything else. Now, I picked an O-ring that is thick enough that it'll just go around the tube here if I stretch it. And if you look, it is not fat enough that when it sits here that it's going to be past this ring, because we still want the ring to seal around here. That's a lot of the sealing power of this is around this ring, but it also should seal around the intake here. This allows it to happen. That keeps anything from pulling to the inside. Very easy, very quick. And you want it to be tight around that intake tube, otherwise it's not going to seal right. It's very tight in there now. It is still hitting against the backside. Everything is making contact. There's not as much room for wiggle though, because it's also making contact at that taper. I think they always should have been designed with an O-ring there. Solves the problem with virtually no more money than it took to originally build the thing. Very easy fix. Another easy one, if you have these foams laying around, it doesn't fit quite as tight on there, but these are just foams for push mowers. That fits. And now it's sealed all the way around with that foam. That foam's going to grab anything there. couple easy fixes. You know, these are probably $3 a piece or $4 a piece if I had to guess. But an O-ring, if you have an O-ring kit sitting around, it doesn't have to be, you know, any specific size or anything like that, even though I'll put the size that I found works best out of my kit in the description down below. That fixes it very easily on these bigger air filters. What about the smaller ones? What about the issue on all of the other Briggs filters? I'll show you a few more of those flaws and how to fix those coming right up. As others have suggested, you can use some sort of a wedge in the back to push this filter all the way forward. This is just another one we have sitting here. Feels rather tight on there, doesn't feel too terribly bad. Kind of like some of you say, they feel okay. I'm just gonna take a couple pieces of the box, the filter box, and I'm gonna make just a little wedge to put behind the filter. Doesn't really matter what it's made out of. This isn't gonna get wet eventually. You know, if you're not changing your filter for years, you may get some deterioration of that. But as that sits in there, it's pushing that back towards. And again, this filter does not hold that down or do anything. It sits on there without, that's full pressure. It's not holding the filter in. A wedge in the back made out of wood or anything else to hold it forward is also going to work just as well as those other methods. I took the hood off so we could take a look at this one, just because of where it was sitting. That is horrible. It's a Briggs & Stratton OEM filter. You can just see how loose it fits on both the nipple and on the outside. Let's see if a new filter fits better. Now this is a Briggs & Stratton 5428. It's never been opened, just opening it now. And it fits up in there tightly. That filter was made poor enough that it changed from fitting this tight to fitting that loose in a little bit of no time. Now, how do you solve that? Pushing it up against further probably isn't going to matter much. I mean, you could put a wedge in one like this. It's probably just going to deviate that much further, though. It's probably just going to allow it to shrink down to where it's not tight also. In this case, I recommend an air filter for a push mower. $799,579. Fits perfectly right around the intake. Goes in between. Yes, it's kind of hard to push on there. Now, no matter what, when this starts to spring back, that foam is going to spring back with it. And this additional foam on top doesn't make any difference whatsoever. Solve the problem with that filter's not real cheap for the OEM one. You can get an aftermarket one also. A couple we just looked at with two different designs. We've got a bunch of other mowers in here with that Briggs engines with these filters on them. This one looks like it's halfway tight, but it's kind of at one side, so it's kind of at an angle to the intake. Pretty good angle there. I would say, again, this $799,579 around there is probably the best way to go. Even if you put a wedge, it's going to push it directly that way. That intake, where it's not fully parallel to the filter, is not going to seat perfectly against there. John Deere with the 17.5, smaller filter on it. It's just ridiculous as far as how much there is for play. Same OEM filter. That is not filtering everything unless there is something in here. An O-ring may work well on some of these if it was a real thin one, but I don't think that's the best option. I think the foam is the best option for fixing those issues. Got another intake on a Husqvarna. It's kind of the same way though. It sits at a very big angle, and these screws are in here, the safety screws on the intake. If that screw's not down in there, it'll allow it to push even further. It won't support it as well. Got a few others. Another intake here. Kind of the same way. Again, Briggs & Stratton OEM filter. These are not aftermarket filters that these people are using. And even with the OEM filters on them, seems like they just lose form after a short period and don't fit tightly against there and allow air in. This one's a little bit tighter. It seems like it's fitting, even though it's a little loose at the back, it's fitting well up against the front. Not sure exactly how long that takes, but on a couple of them I showed in the last video, they had only been installed a couple weeks. 10.5 power built, same design. It's pretty loose. Definitely not held all the way up against, and I don't think they fit well enough at the intake to allow that gap. Craftsman 22. Now this one seems tight. We just put this on a short period ago. Another Intek. This one looks just as sideways as all the others. Can't be sealing fully. Another Intek 19 horse. That one seems pretty solid. Doesn't really seem out of place or anything at all. And you can tell it's been on there a little while. Some of these engines, they fit perfect on. Others, they don't fit hardly at all. To sum up this whole thing, these engines could have been designed with just a little bit more material or in a little bit better way and caused you not to have premature engine failure because of stuff engulfing in your engines. We know how bad of a rap all these engines have, right? Especially the Inteks. Why do you think those camshafts are failing so soon? I mean, granted they have plastic on the inside, but it's constantly pulling debris into the intake and ruining them. There's a huge flaw with these Briggs & Stratton air filters across all of these engine lines. We do not think they give you the best filtration. The easiest way to solve or get past that problem is, you know, just a lawnmower air filter in between the air filter and the housing. From everything we've looked at, you know, an O-ring works well, again, on these larger models. Heck, do both of them on the larger model. Do not put an O-ring on some of these Inteks. That may actually harm you on the front side, but a foam filter will be great. It'll keep everything out. It'll keep you from having premature engine failure. These engines have a very bad rap, and a lot of it is because of these designs that are causing these things to happen. You guys have already kind of let me know what you think. What do you guys think about the fix? Is there anything else you would say or do in this situation? Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content.